So this is Marconi Plaza. 100 years ago, or 10 years ago, this would have been the heart of the Marconi production line at the New Street Works. Behind me you'll see just a tantalising survivor of the amazing factory that was based here. Just 3 arches designed to house railway carriages from the First World War, so they could bring goods in, raw materials that went in the factory, and through this amazing production line that stretched all the way up this yard, we could produce finished wireless sets and wireless equipment. And for over 100 years, this site was the beginnings, the start of the world's electronics business. Marconi's worked with the first computers, they worked with the first radar sets, the first klystrons. All of it comes from where we are now. So as we fast approach 2020, we are coming now to the 100th anniversary of British radio broadcasting. To me, as an historian and writer, this is a critically important anniversary. Let's be honest, back in 2001, the celebrations of Marconi's first test across the Atlantic were not really successful. We now have a golden opportunity to celebrate everything that was the industrial heritage of Chelmsford, centred around this amazing one night in June 1920, where the great soprano Dame Nellie Melba came to this site and sang her heart out. You could really say that from this place, the whole of the broadcasting media that we now know, love, and sometimes hate started. This is the birthplace of British radio broadcasting. And here we are on the Marconi Road side of the old wireless telegraph factory. To my right are the original houses that were built for the employees. Godfrey Isaacs determined that they needed sensible, functional accommodation, and he was one of the first companies to develop this accommodation for its workers. To my left is one of the few survivors of the original Marconi 1912 factory. This is the steam generation house. Now, I joined Marconi's in 1982 and this was already derelict, but it survived now and become the gymnasium. To my right are the original Marconi houses. These were put in for the employees in 1912 through to 1915 to house a massive workforce that was soon to be incredibly busy during the First World War. In front of me is the original Marconi Wireless Telegraph Company, or sadly, very little of it remains. Really developed between 2014 and 2016, only a fraction of Isaac's original huge dream remains. In front of me we can see what would have been Marconi House, the beautiful 1935 Art Deco headquarters of the company, now demolished. And over in front of me as well would have been to its left what we knew as Building 720, built in the early 60s to house the first TV transmitters for IBA, and ITV, Channel 3, Channel 4 and Channel 5, and for a while it was the largest freestanding concrete roof in the world, now also demolished. So today all we have really are fragments of the original dream. Marconi's houses survived to my right, behind me the steam generation room, and perhaps most of all, one of the greatest losses, which actually occurred during the Marconi operation on this site, was the loss of the original studio where Dame Nellie Melba gave her famous concert in June 1920. Melba came here on the 15th of June 1920 as the first professional paid artiste, sponsored by the Daily Mail newspaper, to actually give this record-breaking historic concert. Originally she was aimed that she would perform from the executive dining room above the main New Street headquarters, but a whole series of technical problems during the day, including a fire with the microphone cables across the works, meant that she had to come to here. So if we'd have been here 60, 80 years ago, this was HF Test. And 100 years ago, this was HF Transmit Development, and then a whole series of valve rooms and research laboratories. And they, at the very last moment, pushed Melba into one of these rooms, a cleared out packing shed. So the great lady walked up this yard with Arthur Burrows, head of public relations, and of course the famous story. She was shown these massive 450-foot high masts that towered over Chelmsford until 1937, and Arthur said to her, "Madam Melba, from the top of those masts your voice will be heard across the world." Melba's reply is now radio folklore. "Young man, if you think I'm going to climb up there, you have another thing coming. She turned on her heels and tried to walk down the yard and had to be persuaded to come back. And again, she was not convinced because she was a huge star. And as she said, she did not want her voice to be the subject of experimentation by the young Marconi wireless wizards and their magic playboxers. On the historic evening, Madame Elba sang her considerable heart out. The signal reports, reception reports were amazing. She'd been heard all across the world. Europe, with strengths good enough to dance in the streets of Paris. They heard her in Iraq, Iran, and even on boats sailing on the east coast of America. Even the Australian Marconi company reported that there was a carrier detection in Australia. So the future of British broadcasting looked very bright.